You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
All right. Well, looks like we survived Easter weekend. Taylor, how'd you do?
It was great.
It was good. You saw your folks, I'll bet, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I saw mine too over in Corsicana.
Saw the Easter Bunny, right?
Not really. But I was very fortunate because my parents are still with us, even though they're in their 80s. Not everybody can go see their parents on Easter, so I'm still very appreciative about that. Today we have Steve McAnally, who's running for city council. God knows why, but we'll find out. You'll find out. But
thank you for having me, sir.
No problem. I've heard very good things. Because we haven't met before till just now, and when I have a guest on the show that I don't know personally that well, I will kind of scout around and see what's going on, and nothing but good comments. So that's
great.
Good thing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So that's good to know. And you don't have any kind of skeletons in the closet. At least not that you're going to tell us. But
if I did, I'm sure I probably do, and I'd be more than happy to discuss it if I can remember.
No, I haven't heard anything like that at all. I've heard it's nothing but good things. So that's a good thing. I'm doing the technical stuff we were talking about before the show.
Yes, sir.
How we mess up a lot here. I'm trying to share this with the various platforms. So doing this now, but I got about 8 platforms that I put this show on.
Okay.
This is your first podcast, I understand.
Yes, it is.
Well, don't be worried. My vast listening audience is a very tame group.
We adapt and overcome.
Adapt and overcome. What is your background? You're military, correct?
That is correct. I'm a retired military police officer.
Oh, an MP, all right.
Yes, sir.
But you're at the Navy, right?
Correct.
Isn't it Shore Patrol?
Master at Arms.
Master of Arms. Okay. Well, that's great. I mean, you're. How long did you serve, by the way?
22 years.
22 years.
Yes, sir.
That's a bunch. Where were you posted at?
Quite a number of different places. I started out in Washington, D.C., and ended up my career in Bahrain.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
That must have been fun.
It was interesting to say the least.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take all the time talking about your background just yet because I'd like to have you on the show again, and I think we just agreed on the 22nd. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we want to spend most of the time talking about your platform, so to speak, and whatnot. But also we got to talk about the sponsors. Apparently, you were at one of my sponsors just now at our place, correct?
That is correct.
The pancake eating contest, which you won.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how many pancakes you eat?
4 3/4.
That sounds like, that's not many. You eat Otto's pancakes. They're about the size of a dinner plate, right? That's a lot of pancakes.
That is correct.
I guess you're done for the day then, aren't you?
Not at all.
All right, but Otto also has that Gina's Pizza opening up, and it opened up last Wednesday, and I mean, that place just was overwhelmed. Have you
I have not been there as of yet, but Otto and I actually had that discussion this morning.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Gina's was around for like 50 years until Otto took it over, and he redid it in quite a bit. So Gino's is like a local Burleson institution, and I think he did a great job with it because he's turned it into one of those neighborhood places that Burleson people know about, and I've been there before it was open, and he's sampling some of his pizza, and it's going to be great. But they're also a bit overwhelmed right now, and so their hours now are going to be from 4 to 9. From Wednesday to Friday, then on Saturday 4 to 10, and Sunday 4 to 9, for the time being anyway. I mean, for the next few weeks.
Okay.
Because they're trying to get their staff on board, and also they honestly, I don't think they expected just how popular that place would be.
That's what he was mentioning this morning. That he actually had to turn people away.
Yeah.
And he was very upset about that, he wasn't able to feed them. Well,
you're right. And our place has been around for a long time. He's owned it for quite some time. And it's kind of like a community center. So if you have any more meet and greets, that's a good place to do it.
I'm looking into that as we speak.
Well, but speaking of meet and greets, you had one at Wild Cigar, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And that's another sponsor. I've known Chris, the owner, he was a former student of mine. And Nathan runs the joint most of the time.
Correct.
But I understand you're a regular customer there.
Yes, I am.
You got a particular brand you like to smoke?
What I normally like to smoke, unfortunately, Wild does not carry at the current time. But Nathan is actually working on getting some Monte Cristo Platinums in there for me, a couple of variations of the Punch cigar, as well as Esteban Herrera's Devil's Hand. I'm more of a full-flavored cigar kind of individual.
Well, you sound like you know what you're talking about. That's a good thing, though, because you go into that humidor and they got tobacconists there. They don't have just some high school kid.
Correct.
You say they're over there. No, they know what they're talking about. They've been trained in it. And you walk in and say, well, I don't really know the brand, but this is the experience I want. And they say, well, this is what you want over here.
Absolutely.
And that's what I like about Wild. And it has a good bar. It has good some
if I'm not
high-end
mistaken,
stuff.
they were ranked number 3 for their smoked old fashioned in the entire DFW area.
Wouldn't surprise me a bit. Also, this is a advertisement magazine. You may be familiar with Local Life magazine. It comes out
Yes,
today.
sir.
Tiffany, Nico, and I have known each other for some time now, and it's a really good advertising magazine. It comes to 30,000 homes, and it's in a lot of different retail outlets. So, you get a lot more views than just what's mailed out. I mean, it's pretty well used, to say the least. It's every first of the month, and it comes out. There's a lot of people that look forward to it because that's where not just the sales are and things of that nature, but she has some news articles and things like that, and it's really, really good. Focusing on Burleson people and Burleson businesses and whatnot. And she's really, really good at this job. Here's some place that you ought to take Mrs. McAnally, Southern Gym. It's over
Right over there next to Revelry.
Yeah, you've been there.
Yes, sir.
Well, my wife works there, and
okay.
So I get all this, pictures of her wearing jewelry. Wouldn't this look nice at our house? Like, sure it would. Because it really is. It's got really great stuff, and also repairs and whatnot. She has something going on May 4th. May 4th is a big day, not just because it's election day, but also May 4th that afternoon she's having Kentucky Derby Day. And you go over there and look at the jewelry, of course, and whatnot, but she's going to have bourbon and whatnot, and she's going to have, the ladies are going to be in the hats and all this other business. She's really big into equestrian sports and things like that, yeah. So it's going to be great. It's really going to be fun.
Sounds like a great time.
And they're having a benefit for Wings of Hope, which is that equine therapy group, and I just about an hour ago got them booked on the 29th of this month. So we can talk to them directly in about 4 weeks and see what they got. Also, our friend Brenda Ramirez at Two Maids, twomaidescleaning.com/Burleson, 817-764-0733. They do home and business. They do the Windmiller building. They do a lot of homes for the B&I group I'm in. By the way, just on a side note, tomorrow I'm going to not be here in the studio. I'm going to be in the plaza because our B&I group's getting a ribbon cutting for the chamber. And just by coincidence, Melissa Miller was supposed to be on the show, so we're going to do 2 for 1, so we'll be there. But anyway, Brenda does a great job, and a lot of the people in the B&I that use her just swear by her. And a lot of them do it not just for their own homes, but like for their mother, or something like that, who's getting on up there and whatnot. So things like that. So if you're thinking of a good Mother's Day gift, that's a great Mother's Day gift to get hooked up with Two Maids. Also, our friends over at Old Pro Roofing, local Burleson Group, John Williams, 817-734-2756. Apparently the weather's supposed to be bad tonight, but as all my faithful listeners know, I'm a weather agnostic, so I'll see what happens. But you need to get that roof checked at least once a year because, if you get damaged and you don't take care of it, the insurance companies can be awfully difficult. So 817-734-2756 will get you John out there, and I'll tell you the truth. Either you need a new roof, need repairs, or you're good to go. And also our friends over at Camco, Sammy Campbell and Candy Gal, they've been doing mortgage brokerage work here in Burleson for 2.5 decades. Now they're doing it for themselves, which we're all glad about. Sammy's at 817-778-4592, 817-925-2661 will get you candy. They are in the B&G building around the corner. They're directly across from Fierce City in the second floor, so go check them out. Also, we got some nonprofit stuff coming up, don't we, Taylor? I believe we do. There's lots going on. Oh, yes. The 6th coming up this Saturday. Light Up the Night, 6:30 to 9:30. Center for ASD. Are you familiar with the Center for ASD, sir?
I am not.
Yeah, they're an autistic support group. It's for people on the spectrum and their families. And they're a common guest here. They come here quite often. And they're one of the most popular outfits here because, there's not many groups like out there that do work with autistic people. Not just young people, but older people as well, and their families are part of that whole process. And it's a great program. And so they're having an event over at the Brick Saturday night. And so go over there and it'll be face painting, pet and zoo, the whole thing. So bring the kids and have fun. Also, on the 20th, we have the Walk for Life for the Next Step Women's Center. That's another outfit that is very prominent here. They do a lot of work for couples that are having pregnancy issues, not necessarily medical issues, but like financial issues, or, it's an unexpected pregnancy and they don't know what to do and where to go, or they don't have the family support. Oh, it's a great outfit. They were here last Thursday. And
Wonderful.
yeah, they used to be called the Pregnancy Aid Center, and then they changed to Next Step Women's Center, and they do tremendous work. Sonograms, classes. You'll be surprised. I was surprised. When you think about pregnancy issues or emergency pregnancies, whatever you want to call them, we think of young teenager or young 20. They're all across the age bearing spectrum. It's really interesting how many of their clients are in their 30s, things of that nature. But they do a lot of great stuff, and they have the Walk for Life. So check it out. Sponsor somebody if you can't be there yourself, and you're good to go. One last one. This was a newer group to me. The group called the Amanda Man Clark Project. They're going to be over at the Martin House Brewing Company over in Fort Worth on the 28th. They do colorectal cancer research and prognosis awareness, I guess, colonoscopies and the like. Amanda Man Clark was a friend of these three ladies who were on the show about 2 weeks ago. And she died of colorectal cancer. And they said, we got to do something more than just be sad. And so they established this in her memory, and they're going to have a cornhole tournament. And they're going to have, music, drinks and beverage, the whole thing out there. This one I thought is funny. Yeah, butt sketch artist. I'm not
even sure what that is.
I don't either. But they'll be back on in about 2 months from now, because they got other things going on. But April is very busy. May 4th itself is also another one, the Crazy Eights City on a Hill, which is a big deal. They do it at the beach.
Very familiar with them.
You are? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Lisa comes on the show about once every 6 weeks or so. Liz Hargrove is her assistant. She'll be on I want to say the 24th, but we'll see.
Okay.
I got that. It's somewhere in the calendar. Okay. Got through all of that in one piece. There's lots going on. First of all, tell us about your background, sir.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not a native Texan, and that's through no fault of my own.
Well, it's, you can't but help where you're born.
This is true. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. When my dad met my mom, he was in the military, stationed down in Long Beach, but he was actually born and raised here in Texas, born in Austin, grew up and raised in Fort Worth. So I do have Texas blood running through my veins.
Good enough.
And my wife did a lot of research on Burleson and said, this is where I want us to retire.
That's interesting. What aspects of the community appealed to your wife?
She liked the fact that it was a very old town, home style feeling. She grew up in a small town called Cass City in Michigan. So I wanted something like that. I'm sick and tired of the concrete jungle. But she wants to still have her modern amenities. She looked at Burleson and said, if we ever decide to move from Burleson into a larger home, it'll be easier for resale because Burleson has a great school district.
It does. I have a couple of friends in real estate. I had one that sponsored for a while until she's kind of taking a sabbatical because the real estate market's kind of rough right now. And she said that the three things that they look for, almost, in interchangeable order, is schools, police, business. But schools and police almost always came one or two. And we rank pretty high on both of those. I'm an ex-BHS school teacher, so yeah, I'm very partial to it.
Thank you for your service.
It's quite right. It's nothing like a military service. I enjoyed it for the most part, and some days are better than others, but most days are good. But as far as other aspects of Burleson, so you moved down here. You've been here, what, you said about 3 years?
A little over 3.5 years.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Has it met your expectations?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you like about Burleson?
I love the camaraderie, the small hometown feel. I love downtown, Old Town Burleson. We are getting a lot of new restaurants down there. Majority of them I haven't tried yet because some of the food may be a little bit spicy for me. Can't necessarily handle the spice like I used to when I was a lot younger. But I love the fact that Burleson is a safe community.
It is.
Which is why I love our police department and I love the COPS program.
Well, we'll be talking about that because from what I understand from my little research I've been doing, the police and the police department and all that is a main part of your platform.
Yes, sir.
So we'll be talking a lot about that. But as far as your involvement in the community, is this your first run at any kind of political office?
Yes, sir, it is.
What have you found out to be the case?
It's a little bit more difficult than what I anticipated.
Really?
But we all serve in some capacity. And having committed 22 years of my life to the military, I wanted to go ahead and continue to serve. And what better place to serve than my own community?
Right. Well, like we were talking about before the show, I've been here a long, long time, so I've seen it change quite a bit. But I know one of the priorities of the council is to try to maintain that community feel. And as we spread out further west in particular, there's been concerns about, are we going to be able to maintain that, or are we going to go the way of like a lot of other bigger communities? We have pockets of communities, and they don't really relate or interact with each other very much. And I know the council's been very, very cognizant of trying to make it one town.
And that's what it should be.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, and also, this predates you, but when we went to 2 high schools, it caused some problems. It really did. Now, we can debate whether we needed it or not, or if it's good or not. That's not the issue. But there's no question the impact was, you go from 1 high school town to 2 high school towns, your loyalties are divided.
Correct.
And so what the council does not want to see happen is your loyalty is to an area as opposed to the town itself.
Well, I mean, it's not an area. It's still Burleson.
Yeah, right.
And that's how it should be.
Well, you go to like Fort Worth, and their city council and their school boards represent areas of the community, not the community as a whole. And they're more beholden to their small region or small district that they came from, as opposed to the good of the whole situation. I'm glad we do it the way we do it now still. And I hope we continue to do that for a long time, where you're elected at large as opposed to from
a district.
District, sector, to community, a precinct, whatever.
Yes, sir.
So this being your first run, what would you tell somebody is your shall you say, your qualifications to run and to serve?
Do a lot of research. Be open and honest. Integrity is everything. And do not promise anything that you will not be able to deliver on.
Yeah, that's a good point, because my friends on the council and on the school board, they said that's the hardest part of the job, because people they've known for a long, long time want them to do it a certain way, vote a certain way, support a certain project, and they can't because there's a lot of other factors going on. And they said that those kind of personal relationships often get strained.
They can, yes.
So you're aware of that. It can
Absolutely.
happen, and you're willing to take that on.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's a good point, because that's one reason I never run, among others. But because I can't do that very easily. Somebody I've known for a long time says, "Hey, we want you to support this program," and I just say, "We really can't because of money or other priorities, or that doesn't support the whole community or whatnot." And some people don't take no for an answer very well, but you think you can, huh?
I most certainly can.
Okay.
But a lot of individuals, they'll also try and what's classified as mom and pop shop. If they don't like the answer that they're getting from one person, they'll go to another person and see if they get the answer that they want.
And it's a right as a citizen, of course, but it just,
of course,
that's part of it. I mean, governance often is having to say no, and that's the hard part of the job.
Well, I mean, we can't please everybody all the time.
So what motivated you to run, though? Because you like this community. I mean, so that's a positive of it, certainly. But there must be some issues or some reasons why you think, I need to be on that council help making these decisions. What's motivating that?
I wanted to continue to serve. After, like I said, after doing 22 years in the military, I wanted to continue to serve. What better way than serving in the community where my wife and I are actually retiring? I want to see Burleson continue to grow, but grow in the right way, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. That's what they all say, and they all mean it, because they just do not want uninhibited growth, and because that's going to cause all sorts of problems. And
It most certainly will.
And particularly with infrastructure, which is another topic I'd like to drop on you in a little bit. But as far as, wanting to serve, what would you say is a centerpiece of your platform, if you will?
Everything will revolve around first responders.
Okay.
You have to have a safe community in order for your community to grow.
Absolutely.
And in my opinion, our police department needs to outpace, and our fire department needs to outpace the growth of Burleson.
That's been a number one priority for a while, and it's also been a source of concern because the expense continues to rise. As you were well aware, we passed a bond.
Correct.
And the bond, by the time we got that thing funded, of course, inflation and everything took over, and also other things came to light as to what was needed. And now they went to, I believe they asked for about $52 million, and it eventually got $48 million.
Yes, sir.
How would you have voted if you had been on the council?
I would have given the police department exactly what they asked for.
$52 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The reason being is because being a volunteer with the Citizens on Patrol, having gone through the Citizens Police Academy, I see exactly what it is that our men and women in blue do. Being a retired military police officer, I know what I did for the majority of my life. I think I have a better handle on what it is that we actually needed in order to get across the finish line, so to speak.
There was a 5-2 vote, and so it wasn't like it was like a narrow 1-vote margin or whatever else. And I know from what I've talked to the others, particularly Victoria, your opponent, is that they wanted to do what you're suggesting as well, but they also felt constrained by the other needs that was facing the community. So that's why they settled on the 48.
And that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I would have done my best to try and bridge that gap between the 48 and the 52, if at all possible.
If at all possible. And so, I've talked to Victoria before. She's been a guest, and,
Yes, sir.
And y'all have met. And,
We have.
And from what I understand, it's been very cordial all the time.
Absolutely.
So, which we appreciate, and that's no joke. We appreciate that in our candidacies because we're not equipped to handle the Biden-Trump kind of thing,
Nor would I expect that.
No. But her point and others, the other four, with that if we go to the whole $52 million, it may come at the expense of some other department, particularly the fire department. Is that how you viewed it?
I didn't necessarily see it that way. I know we are looking to have fire station number 4, and we need to get the land for that. I know it was, I believe, allocated or talked about for a 3-bay fire department.
Right.
An individual company came in, architectural company, and wanted a 4-bay fire department. Well, of course, they're always going to say that they want more for an architectural committee. They're going to end up making more money. What I think we need to do is look at the population that's currently out there, what kind of an area that we're looking at out there, and how much that particular area is going to grow.
Well, one of the issues had is not the vote or the need or the ask, but some of the characterization of that vote is that they didn't support the police. And that's where I take issue, because I know those 5 people, some better than others, and I know 100% they support the police and the fire. And I want to make sure the listeners understand this. You're not making the allegations, and neither is any other opponents. But some people on Facebook were saying, on Facebook, we're saying they don't support the blue, and I know that's not the case. And I appreciate the fact that you're not going that route a lot, because that's just inappropriate and all that. And so that's to your credit. But that extra $4 million would have to come from somewhere. And either it's additional revenue or cut the expenses somewhere else. We can't rely on growth 100% of the time.
No, sir.
And so where would that other expense at $4 million, where would it come from?
I would take a look at all of the different departments and see where we could possibly maybe tighten our belt just a little bit. I'm not saying, apply a tourniquet, so to speak. We don't need to completely stop the bleed. See if we can just shave off a little bit here and there over long-term, big picture.
Well, and then you run into the issue of other constituencies, right? Because the Parks and Rec people, they're going to want more money. Everybody wants more money. I know.
Everybody does.
Yeah, I know how this works. I worked in the school system, and we all the teachers always wanted more money for X, Y, and Z, and we had to be told no or sort of no or whatever. So I've gone through this many times. That and I have friends on the school board, and they'll tell you, you only got X amount, and you got to just divvy it up so much without going back to the taxpayers, which in this town is not a popular move, and so. So the Parks and Rec people, they're going to want more money. But if you're going to be shaving bits off of that, or off the library board, or off the streets, that's another one. Or
the streets is a huge issue currently.
Sewage and water, whatever else. What would you tell them?
We have to have good streets. Streets have to be repaired. That is a vital link between Burleson and our citizens getting into other locations, as well as individuals from other locations getting into Burleson, coming in here for an Old Town feel.
Our friend Jackie Jones, whom you probably have met, I would imagine.
I have.
Okay. With regards to Police Officers Association in Burleson, I'll get the glare on again. Firefighter Association, have you contacted each association and board members for sit-down meetings to discuss your campaign and your ideas or concerns? Also, thank you for your service. So have you talked to the people at BPOA and at the firefighters?
I have met the BPOA, but I have not spoken with anybody in regards to the Firefighters Association.
Okay.
I've not been invited out to speak with them. I've only been contacted by the BPOA.
Well, we'll put a note out to Mike Jones, see what we can do. But the BPOA, I've become aware of this group. I've had, last week, had the COPS program on with
Yes,
Jay
sir.
Davis. And, I don't know if you met Colin Gregory yet, but he does our community resource outreach and that kind of thing. He's on the show now on a monthly basis. And he had the COPS program. We also had the week prior, Christy Gilbert with their alumni association, so to speak.
BCPAAA.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I always got those letters all mixed up and things of that nature. And so, but he met with the BPOA.
I have.
Can you tell us what you talked about, or was that considered to be just a private conversation?
Oh, it wasn't a private conversation at all. They were essentially asking where I stood and where I saw their growth going. And just like I told you,
Yeah.
I'd like to look 20 years down the road.
Am I phrasing it wrong when I say you, of all the things we need, the police are the priority?
In my mind, yes.
Okay.
Because they are considered, by letter of the law, if you will, that they are the first responders. Fire department is also first responders in a different scenario. Police, they will go into a burning building if necessary, because more often than not, our police officers can get to places a lot faster than the fire department. Their vehicles, let's face it, they're a heck of a lot bigger. They can't maneuver as easily as a police unit. But fire department, they will not go into a building, even if it's on fire, if there is, say, an active shooter, for instance.
Right.
They won't go into the building until it's secure, because they're not trained or equipped to do so, and rightfully so.
Well, as far as, we talk about the priority to the police. What are you going to tell a resident that says, my streets haven't been repaired for about 2 years and we just don't have the budget for it? What are you going to tell them?
We are working on the street issue as well. Not every dollar that the city has is going to go to the police department, and everybody, I think, certainly understands that, because there are other departments other than the police department, other than the fire department.
Right.
We still need to drive on the roads. The police officers would like to have nice roads as well. They don't want to be driving down, say, Irene, and hit a pothole, and now all of a sudden we have to pay extra money to have that vehicle put back in alignment.
I've had that happen once or twice.
As have I.
Yeah. But I guess go back to an earlier part of your conversation, you talk about the quality of life.
Yes, sir.
A lot of things the city provides isn't just for first responders and
No, it's
security and streets. It's also the parks, the library, and all its programs, and the special programs they have in the summer. Like the Hot Sounds
of Summer.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It would be really, really unfortunate, to say the least, if we had to scale those back, because a lot of people, that's why they came to Burleson, is they like the fact that we have not just a really nice park here and there, but also mini parks. That's really been they take a piece of property no one's ever going to use and then make it into a little community park. I mean, that you don't see that in a lot of communities.
You don't.
And I would hate to see that be shoved aside, because
I don't want to see the parks departments pushed aside either. Not at all.
But you may be forced to be in a situation where you have X amount of dollars and more than X amount of requests, shall we say.
Unfortunately, not every single request can be fulfilled, at least at this immediate point in time. However, we are not always going to be in this immediate point in time.
Well, Sherry Scott points out that parks are funded primarily through sales tax, and that's true. And of course, the better the sales tax, the better
More
the funding.
for the Parks Association.
Right, and for everybody else.
Absolutely.
For the city itself as well. But I guess it just, this is where you're getting down to the problems, if you will, of a growing community, which I'd rather have this than the problems of a dying community, certainly.
Absolutely.
But it is, because there's none of these needs or requests are invalid, so to speak. They're all great requests. Everybody,
Certainly.
there's not like a frivolous one among them, and that's really the hard part of this is. My personal view, and it's not a view universally shared, is that the $48 million, was a compromise that they felt that they had to make to try to keep everything else
afloat,
funded.
so to speak.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And if we'd gone to the whole $52 million, somebody would have to be told no. And they thought, well, I think they wanted to see if they can do this without having to tell people no or raise revenue in some other fashion. And in other words, raise taxes, which is really a problem.
That is not something that I'm looking forward to at all.
No,
ever.
Mr. Janish, whom I believe is you've y'all met? I don't
Yes, sir, we have.
Okay, I just don't assume, but I think y'all have met once or twice. Says part of the problem of the delays we have, which allowed the material prices to soar, many times putting the projects way out of budget. The BBD expansion was slowed a couple of times, and look what happened to the price now. I'll let you respond to that because this is your show. So,
unfortunately, the longer things get delayed, prices increase by an average between 10 and 20% per year. My wife actually is a civil engineer, so she's educated me on quite a bit in regards to prices. After COVID, prices actually did skyrocket quite a bit as well. And the longer things get delayed, unfortunately, the more it's going to end up costing the city.
Well, I'll let Victoria and the others speak to as to why they asked for this. I do know, we've talked, she and I, and there was a lot of questions that still need to be answered after the first proposal was presented, and that's why they sent it back for more study. And the vote in October was indicative of that. They wanted more study on it and whatever else, but they also understood that they better start making progress on this.
Absolutely.
And some things came to light that when we passed the bond, oh gosh, it'll be almost 3 years ago now, that we didn't know we needed to have. But this is circles back to that whole problem is you only got X amount, and therefore sometimes you might have to scale back. But
correct.
But you, if I could put words in your mouth, so to speak, you seem to think that it can be done.
If there's a will, there's a way.
Right. Okay.
We just need to put our nose to the grindstone and find that way.
Well, when I say you seem to think, you do think. I mean, that sounds a bad way of putting it. I'm not very eloquent sometimes, but I mean, you think that it can be done.
Absolutely.
But it's not going to be done painlessly.
No. Okay. There is going to be a little bit of a pain, but you can't put a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
Do you think
we just need to identify all of the problems and chip away at it? And again, being in the military, adapt and overcome.
Well, being in the military, you're used to bureaucracies.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because anything government related is going to be a grind.
Yes, sir.
So, but these problems aren't going to be solved overnight, are they?
No, they're not.
And I don't know this for a fact, but we keep waiting for the economic hammer to drop on us, so to speak. I mean, we may be in a situation next year, the year after that, where our ambitions may outstrip our resources. And I think that also played a factor into why they didn't go the whole $4 million extra, is because they're concerned about if and when that does happen, are we going to be prepared for it?
But at the same time, though, sir, we can't live our life with what ifs. If our citizens don't feel safe, we're not going to have the growth.
Mr. Janice also has some have said you haven't lived here long enough and haven't served on any boards or committees. How would you respond, and how have you ever served on boards or committees?
No, I have not lived here all that long. As you and I discussed, I've been here just a little over 3.5 years. I've been out everywhere in the world, serving the country, but I have served on numerous boards at the federal level with the United States Navy, military, police, etc.
Yeah, and serving on boards and commissions, you know how slowly things can grind.
That is correct.
I want to kind of circle back to another thing you said. We can't live like Armageddon's approaching, and I agree with that. But it's not imprudent, I think, to bear in mind some of the economic situations that not only face as a nation, but even locally. They could go south in a hurry.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it did with COVID. And so I think that's kind of what in the back of the mind of some of the council members is that they don't want to be in a situation where a year from now or 2 years from now they have to create a budget that the cuts are pretty severe.
And I can definitely appreciate that.
and that's where the hard part of serving is. Because,
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you'll be there and whether, you talk to the mayor, they blame him for the weather and that kind of stuff. And so, you got all that to deal with. But as far as we'll kind of finish up on the police angle of this, you tell me what you would like to see happen in your words.
What I would like to see happen is I would like to see our officers get a new building. They have never had a new building. Every fire department starts out with essentially a brand new building. Not saying it's apples and oranges, but essentially it kind of is apples and oranges to an extent. They're both first responders. They both have to be there and protect the community when they get that call. And they do so, selflessly. That's why they signed up for what they did. And I have nothing but respect for all of them. Even our teachers, they're essentially first responders, and our counselors. Because a lot of students don't necessarily want to go to mom and dad, but they'll talk to a counselor or they'll talk to a teacher. So they're also doing a little bit of an intervention. But I would like to see all of our first responders get exactly what they need. We do need to outpace the growth of the city so our city can feel safe and they can continue to grow. If they don't feel safe, why would anybody want to come to Burleson?
Yeah, that's true. And, this is that problem you mentioned before. Growing cities have growing demands. And,
They do.
And, one of the things that has been another issue, kind of on a segue to that, is the tax issue. Because even though the tax rates have been cut, the tax amounts have risen because of property values and such.
Absolutely.
And they blame the city council for that, which they shouldn't, because it's Scott Porter over in Cleveland's problem, not ours. He's the one doing the assessments and whatnot and evaluations. But the tax payment that's going up, and a lot of people, they struggle with that. Why would you respond to that?
Unfortunately, we're all feeling it, but we don't, unfortunately, have too much of a say in the property tax.
Right.
That's all done through the assessor in Johnson County.
But they keep wanting to lower the tax rates, which they have the last 3 or 4 years.
Correct.
Including this current council, they've lowered it again. But is there going to get to a point where we can't lower it anymore and be able to do the police and the fire station we want and repair the streets?
Not having looked at the historical tax rates and whether or not they've increased or decreased, as well as assessments, I could not give an intelligent answer on that at this time.
Well, neither can I. I'm no expert on it at all, so I don't have anything but speculation. But I do know from what my friend. I live right outside the community. I live in the East Renfro. But as far as my friends that live here in town, when I tell them their tax rates are going down, they say, "Swell, I still had to write a bigger check," and that kind of thing. And I just wonder if we're going to get to a point where we can't lower the tax rates anymore, but the check amounts continue to rise. What are we going to do? Because that can choke off potential growth if
It
the
most
tax
certainly
rates
can. Unfortunately, I think that has a lot to do with where our country is economically speaking. Inflation has a lot to do with it. Interest rates had a lot to do with
got
it.
that right. That does hurt. That interest rates they really
Most definitely.
they hurt my real estate friends a lot.
Most definitely.
You think you ever see yourself in a position where you could say we can't lower the tax rates anymore, or even theoretically have to raise it a cent or two?
Well, if I could predict the future, I would be a multi-billionaire.
Right. But you're saying that's not a closed option, or am I putting words in your mouth again?
I honestly couldn't answer that.
Okay.
Intelligently because I'm not 100% certain as of yet. I can't predict the future, but at this point in time, if I had to make an immediate answer, I don't necessarily say anything would be off the table.
Well, that's good because, you have to prepare even for the worst case scenarios.
Correct.
And not
Just like a Boy Scout.
You don't want to do what George H.W. Bush did with no new taxes, and then he ends up having to, go back on that. Now I know just from the brief conversations we've had here, raising the tax rate would be like, the last thing you'd want to do. You'd rather eat ground glass than do that.
Absolutely.
So I don't want anybody to think that that's like on your mind at all, because that's not that. I know the others.
I do not want to raise taxes because I do not want to pay more.
Right. And, if you have met Mr. Fletcher and the others, they have, that's been a real big deal with them, is trying to get the tax payments lower. They really worked on that.
Yes, sir.
So I just don't want anybody out there think I'm implying that you're going to raise taxes, because I don't see that scenario happening.
No.
I really don't. I think if we ever had a budget crunch, we'd probably end up having a cut, and that'd be really unfortunate. But it may have to happen. It happened to the school district about 2010 when we were going through all that problem. They had a dramatic cut in the school district budget, which impacted me directly, right? So I understand how this works. It impacted me because my classes got bigger. Some of our more expensive programs were shut down, that kind of thing.
It's essentially do more with less.
Yes, and it was some of the scenarios were pretty bad. Fortunately, we didn't get that bad, but they were bad enough, and it took about maybe 3 or 4 years to kind of recover from that.
Okay.
All right. Now, Sherry Scott says we budget at 3% growth, which is probably pretty conservative, actually. 3% growth sounds like a bunch, but we've been booming in the last few years. I mean, it really has taken off in the last decade or so.
Right.
All right. Bill also says discussions have already taken place in at least one staff council meeting now as attendance, which taxes might have to be raised. Elections sometimes cause those conversations to be mute until elections are over. Well, I don't know what meeting he's talking about, but I'm sure he was there. I can't speak for any meetings. I just know that the board members that I know best, including our opponent, have zero intent or desire to raise taxes, and none of the opponents in the races are. And in fact, I haven't seen a candidate in the last 5 years that said let's raise taxes. That was kind of an issue around 2019-20. Is that we were taking on a lot of this stuff, and our taxes are being raised, and we had a fairly high rate, and all this other business. So I haven't seen a candidate in the last 5 years that said, I will raise your taxes. That's not only going to get you beat in an election, it's going to get you beat personally.
Absolutely.
Out in the street.
Absolutely.
So that's not going to happen. But anyway, as far as other aspects of the community, not you certainly, but some people think that, we spend a lot of money on stuff that isn't necessities, in a sense.
Okay.
Like some of our summer events and some of our entertainment and our 4th of July and, the stuff that a community does that they pay for.
But that's what makes it a small hometown feel.
Okay. That's kind of where I was getting at, is that's not something you see as expendable.
I don't see so, no. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of great things at Mary Vera Calvin Plaza. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of great things at the Veterans Memorial Plaza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. I've seen those. I've been there.
We have some great shops down there as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And of course, I don't know if this Saturday is the Saturday. I think it is. The farmers market opens up.
Yes, sir.
And that's a fantastic thing.
My wife and Guy go all the time.
There's your guy.
My wife and I.
Your wife and I. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my wife and I go about once every 2, 3, 4 weeks because I run out of tamales. The tamale vendor's there. And if Chaz doesn't have that tamale vendor there, I'm going to have something to say to him. But because those are the best tamales.
They are. And I'll actually sit and eat the entire dozen.
Yes, I will too, which is not good for me. But then again, you eat the pancake challenge today. You won, so you
I did, but I had 4 3/4 pancakes in 5 minutes.
I'd be
it was all about eating them like a taco.
I would be so stuffed at the rest of the day. But anyway, we digress a little bit. But so I assume that would be your answer, but I'm glad to hear it anyway. That these things are important to a community. They're not luxuries. They're
not.
Yeah.
They're not. I think it's a necessity. And again, being a cops volunteer, which is a great program, we work all of the events. So we're going to be out there for the Hot Sounds of Summer. We were out there for Bunny Days.
Well, you got a big deal coming up on Memorial Day. You're going to have we have the honey tour with the chamber.
Yes, sir. That's 4 days long.
Right, and in coordination with the carnival. Again,
yes, sir.
I thought last year was fantastic when they had them together. I wish they could do it downtown again, but street repairs and whatnot makes that difficult, so they're going to do it at Chisenhall Park this year. And that, and I've been, like I said, I've been a long time resident. It used to be the honey tour is something that, is that going on? How nice. Now it's an event.
Yes, sir.
And the cops I know work it, and they also work a lot of the plaza events. I've seen them there with their vests and whatnot.
We do.
And they also I had a real good conversation with Jay Davis about that, because it's not all just for public events like that, but it also could be for serious stuff, helping with traffic at car wrecks and things of that nature. And
That is correct.
Have you met also, just off the top of my head, Ms. Beard over at the Victim Assistance Program?
I have not met
That's
Stephanie
somebody
yet.
you need.
No, sir.
Yeah, you got to meet Stephanie, because that's a really great program, and it should be one guy to tell you about it, or Colin will, because she and Colin run it, and it's a tremendous program. I don't know many communities that have that.
Okay.
And if I could brag on Burleson, which is
Certainly.
easy to do, not many communities have the type of nonprofits we do, or the type of city events we do, or the people that volunteer for the city.
That is true.
That's a blessing. And that's probably why your wife said we're moving to Burleson, right?
Absolutely. Well, she also said I couldn't be a police officer any longer.
Right.
So she's like, go ahead and volunteer for the cops program. That's the closest you're going to get to being a cop these
Really?
days. Absolutely.
You considered being a Burleson police officer yourself?
Absolutely.
I want to keep that in consideration.
That's my background.
Yeah. Well,
That's
keep that in consideration.
Kind of my niche.
Yeah.
So, but she wants me to be able to come home every night and not have to worry.
And I think that's one of the reasons why emotions are high on the police issues, because it really is every day. And same with the firefighters as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Every day could be a bad day. And so, that's why I think sometimes emotions run high on issues about funding, because in no way, in my opinion, and I think most opinion, the 5 that voted to postpone and whatnot, we're sending a message to the police, anything other than financial, nothing about lack of support and whatever else. And I got a little bit irritated with some of the social media making that the case, but we know that's not the case. But it's still, it is. It's like teachers. It's the same thing. We go in the classroom, we don't get what we want. Well, they just don't appreciate us, kind of.
Well, I mean, it's
and then we find out, well, okay, there are other issues involved besides just my direct
everybody doesn't necessarily see the whole picture.
right.
And it could be lack of transparency. It could be a variety of issues.
Well, Mr. Janish here discusses the idea maybe we have our own jails as opposed to taking them down to Cleburne or wherever we take them.
Currently, right now, we're taking them down to Everman.
Everman, okay. You think
And our officer needs to sit with that individual until they are completely processed. So that takes that officer off the streets.
so? You'd like to have
For
our
a few hours.
own jail?
I think we need one,
Where would it be? I wonder. Well, that's not,
depending on the complex.
yeah, right. That's a decision far in advance. I just was kind
Absolutely.
of speculating where would it be, because I live right next to the jail.
Well, I mean, it would definitely, I'm sure, be within some kind of an enclosed
Yeah, I know.
compound, per se, if you will.
But most of the crimes that we're having now are not the news-making crimes like high levels of violence. Even though we have, unfortunately,
Unfortunately, we have our fair share.
Yeah, but what the police officers I know and what the nonprofits tell me, our big problem is becoming more and more homeless people.
That is correct.
If you make the council, would you want to move the council in some direction towards alleviating the homeless issues to some degree? It's not going to ever be solved, but you can make it less of a problem. What would that be something that you'd want to focus on?
That's something that we could absolutely focus on.
Because I know the police are kind of getting their hands full a lot of this.
They are. And there's quite a few that have been, I guess, hanging out, for lack of a better term, behind Chisholm Hall Field.
Yes. And we're starting to get tent cities, so to speak.
And our officers have been doing close patrols throughout there.
But I talked to like Jennifer Woods over at Harvest House.
Okay.
And they do a lot of work with, the charities, of course. I'm sure you're familiar with Harvest House.
Yes,
and,
sir.
and they do a lot of stuff with the homeless. And a lot of them aren't living in tents.
No.
They're living in their cars and stuff like that. Do you ever see us as a city getting involved in some sort of action to try to alleviate that problem directly? Because,
I think we should, because with homelessness also has the potential for more crime. But what is the underlying issue?
Well,
How can we help that individual?
with Jennifer, she'll tell
It's
you.
the same with veterans.
Right. Jennifer will tell you. Speaking of veterans, I'm going to have to announce the show before we leave, because I am doing something that's dealing with veterans on Thursday. Jennifer will tell you that the majority of the homeless people are not dangerous to the society at all. they are, in fact, a lot of them have jobs. They just can't afford rent and all this. I just wonder if we'll ever get in a situation where we're going to, as a city, not just as private charities, get involved. That, to me, if I were running, that would be one of the focuses I'd have, because of all the things we talk about having a good city, homelessness is bad on two levels, not just for the person involved, but for our community as well.
Absolutely.
So that's something I would focus on, but that's just me. There's other issues, and and like I said, you're going to be coming back in about 3 weeks, so we can talk about those again, and we can reiterate some of the stuff about the police situation, because 3 weeks is a long time, and there's going to be other meetings and all that. Do you have any events coming up?
I will actually be at the city council meeting this evening, and next Monday is the solar eclipse watch party, if you will. I'll be working that as a cops volunteer.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Taylor and I, Taylor is taking the day off. We're taking the day off Monday so he can go and film this thing. Taylor, have you seen the weather report?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. But, okay, so you'll be there, and
yes, sir.
And your capacity there. What have you learned about this community since you started? You raised your hand and said, yeah, I'll do this.
I absolutely love what I do.
Yeah.
I'm additional eyes and ears for the police officers. So I'm out doing a patrol at least once a week.
Really?
We only require...
You can't get it out of your system, can
absolutely
you?
Not. We only require a 4-hour commitment once a month and one event per quarter. I'm working an 8-hour shift once a week and doing darn near every event that I can possibly do, because I absolutely love interacting with everyone.
Well, that's good. Not that this is going to happen. I'm not wishing, any putting it out there in the universe, but let's say you come in second.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You still want to serve the community, I'm
absolutely.
sure.
And I will continue to do so.
Okay. And that's good. And, maybe also some of the committees, that have been mentioned, you're already, dealing with the COPS program. That's a good thing. I couldn't do it. I'm just saying, I've talked to several of y'all, and there's a campaigning and all this other business, and it's not for me.
It's not necessarily for everyone, and if I win, absolutely, that's fantastic. If not, okay, it wasn't meant to be at this time. I'm okay with it either way.
Well, I'm
going to continue to do what I do for our community.
I think I could speak for the whole community, is that we very much appreciate your willingness to serve.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate the tone this whole campaign has been. It's been one of respect and cordiality, and that's what we want to see. And it's reassuring. It's like okay, even my particular candidate didn't win, but the other one's a good person anyway, so we can live with that.
Absolutely.
And I like those kind of elections. We had those kind of elections at the school board last spring, and they were all, it was really kind of touching almost to see in one race how the three of them would get together, and they were very supportive of each other. And then when one of them won, it was Dallas Owen who won. They were all calling each other, congratulating each other and whatnot. And that's what we want in a community. We'll save all the hair pulling for Washington and that kind of stuff. And so we appreciate your willingness to serve, and in the past your willingness to serve, and we wish the very best for you. Like I said,
thank you.
Like I said, the 22nd is our next date. I will have Victoria on the 23rd as well.
Okay.
I do have, I'm going to just look at my calendar here while I'm just sitting there thinking about it, because I have the other candidates as well. April, like I said, is a very busy month. On the 15th, I have Alexa Bedeker, and then the next day, the 16th, I have Brandon Crisp over in the other race. And I think, and then again, like I said, you the 22nd, and her, Victoria, the 23rd. So it's a busy month.
I can certainly understand why.
I like it. I like, and see, this a lot easier. Yeah, like I said, I've been to a couple of these races where it got kind of antagonistic, and I thought, this isn't fun at all. This isn't what you want from. We're not Mayberry, but we are a small town, and we should treat each other like it.
But we're also not Washington D.C. There's no need for it.
It is. There's no need for it at all. I really worry about our country, to tell you the truth. But that's a discussion for another time.
Yes, sir.
Taylor, thank you for everything.
Thank you, Taylor.
Always.
Yeah. Tomorrow, he and I are going to be out at the City Plaza. The networking group I'm with, BNI, we're having a ribbon cutting with the chamber, so it's a 2-for-1, and so we're going to do a little clipping and taping and whatever else.
Wonderful.
And then on Thursday, I have a group, the McClearys. I taught Megan, the McCleary, the wife, back in the day, and friends with their parents. they do something called assisting hands. And they do a lot of work with veterans and that are in like homebound situations and other things. So that's something probably close to your heart, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's a great project and program they got going on. So we'll be talking to them next Thursday. So we got lots going on. Taylor, we'll see. We'll work out the details later.
Yeah.
Thank you, screen participants. And so be sure to share this with your friends and neighbors. We'll have this on Spotify and podcast within 24 hours, but it's already on YouTube and Facebook, so get it around. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me
Sure.
out. I appreciate it.
No problem.